All right, good afternoon, everyone. Once again, welcome back to another special edition of Red Pill News. As always, my name is Zach Payne, the corruption detector, and joining me, as they do regularly here on the channel, are my good friends Patty Greer and Chris Burres from C60 EVO, the makers of ESS60. My friends, how are you today? Patty, we'll start with you. You look radiant as always.
Thank you. I feel so excitable today, and I feel like we had the same idea with colors from our closet. But to learn that you are wearing an ancient or a vintage, what is it?
It's a bell diver's helmet here. I don't know if the audience has ever actually seen this, but if I get close.
Bell? Yeah. Who has a shirt like that?
Just me.
So you were explaining that you buy like the perfect, you always have the most cool clothes.
Thank you.
Everybody on the internet is like in normal things. You and I'm usually in something a little vintagey, and you're always in Hawaiian, but today's bell diver. You probably didn't know, but for 18 years, I owned a vintage clothing store on the Pearl Street Mall in downtown Boulder.
Yes.
And yeah, I was totally into antique clothing when it was a thing. So when I see your shirts, I'm like, that guy's a classic. So I just wanted to say that. It's awesome. I love your clothes.
Thank you so much. On that note, my parents were like children of the 60s and 70s. And so, like, when I was growing up and going to high school, I graduated in 1996. So, like, this is like, Nirvana, like grunge era Seattle and stuff. And so, like, my dad had all of these vintage clothes that he had kept from when he was younger. And so I was just telling the audience the other day, when I went to prom my junior year, I wore the leisure suit that my dad actually was married in. And and I also had all of these, they're actually fairly reminiscent to the stuff that I wear now. The collars. Yeah, the collars were just bigger, and they were maybe, a little bit more polyester. But I had a whole wardrobe full of, like, vintage and disco shirts. And I, too, was an aficionado of vintage clothing. Like, when I was, like, in college, my part-time job outside of my regular job and then going to school full-time is I would scour through all of the secondhand stores in my town. Like, I knew exactly what days they would put the new merchandise out. And I would go in there early, and I would scoop everything up, and then, I would sell it myself through my own store, which was actually through eBay, because that was, like, the only place you could do online sales at that time. But for years, I had, like, just a massive collection of clothing that was from the 70s and the 80s. You get to a certain point, and it's all, like, Sears sweaters and stuff like that. And so you nowadays, it's pretty much impossible to find that stuff, because it's either been, like, worn out, or if people are keeping things, it's probably tucked away in their attic or something. But more than anything, now vintage clothes are like what I was wearing when I was in high school. Like, you find a Mudhoney shirt or something like that at the secondhand store, and you're like, wow, I remember the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Makes me feel old.
The funny thing is, the reason we loved it is because of quality. Like, vintage was just more quality, better fabrics, better workmanship. And here we are, 20 years later. I was selling on eBay also. We were probably competing. But here we are, representing the best of the best, a really high quality, fine vintage olive oil.
Yes.
Like gardens that have probably been there for decades. We buy from the same farm, Chris and Robert do. And I mean, the oils are so fabulous. But again, it's like it goes back to really loving historic quality. And now we're so blessed to have something that's almost the future right here today. So I'm in love with what we're doing together still.
Yes.
Isn't that funny? We both were into vintage. And of course, now vintage is when I was a kid, in the 50s and 60s.
Right.
That's vintage. You guys, that's probably historic clothing.
So, what else I loved about that stuff is that, it was all made in America. It was before, like, the doors had been opened on free trade and everything got shipped overseas. These are made in America. That's another one of the reasons why I love them. And it's not easy to find, like, quality things that are perhaps in your specific style, if you have a unique style. when you're looking for things like that. There's just so much stuff that's been shipped off overseas. And obviously, I think that's changing here in America. And it's one of the reasons also why I love you guys, because you're an American company and you're doing things here in the United States of America. And that's so vitally important. I mean, if we're going to recover fully as a nation, we've got to make sure that we've got that economic and manufacturing base. Because if we don't, then we're just a nation of servers and customer service agents. And, how much value is there in that? I mean, this is one of the reasons why, there's such uproar in the federal service, because people are like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do now? Because they don't know how to do anything. They don't know how to actually add value to the country. And
go to work.
Yeah, I mean, if they actually go to work.
Let's focus on what does have value.
Yes, exactly.
And you don't get to meet my other partner because Chris is going to tell us about the science. But my other partner is very subtle. And I just said to him, what is ESS60 worth? And he sends me a gift.
Oh, yes.
Of $1 trillion bill in probably solid gold because, whatever. But I just thought you'd like to see that this is what ESS60 is going to be worth in the immediate future.
I love it.
Get your bottle now. Step right up. The only reason it's worth anything is because it works. Chris, tell them why.
Exactly. And Chris, I was going to say, we got so carried away with the conversation at the start.
Vintage.
I don't even know how you're doing today. Tell me about yourself, friend.
I'm doing amazing. I love the clothes. I actually had to dive into the website just to make sure that you hadn't missed an affiliate account, because your clothes are always on point, and you really should have a link, and you might even want to reach out to them because they might make one for you.
Yeah. Not a bad idea.
Because that's a pretty cool. Also, I thought it was Kenny from South Park originally.
That makes sense.
It actually does look like him.
Which I have.
Oh
here.
no, your idol.
Oh my gosh.
This one used to make noise. Yeah.
And it matches your shirt, so we were planning on this.
It absolutely does. You know what's also cool about it is that I'm not only a fan of just vintage clothing, but antiques and vintage things in general. Before we moved to Florida, I had a huge collection of antique cameras and all sorts of crazy things. Back home, we would frequently go to MSU. They had a surplus warehouse where the labs and stuff, when they would no longer use glassware or all kinds of distillation equipment or just random pieces of scientific equipment, I was that guy that would go and pick them up and then see what I could do with them and put them on display. And so Chris, this leads into your part here, because I'm also a fan of science and the way things work. And since I was a kid, taking things apart and identifying, what did what and how things actually were put together was something that fascinated me greatly. And, it's also one of the things that has drawn me to ESS60, because there are some fascinating properties to it. So please, as Patty said, do tell.
Yeah, well, we have some parallels. I used to be the kid, and my dad wasn't particularly mechanically inclined, and neither was my mom, but I was always taking stuff apart and putting it back together. And, every now and then you get lucky and it's not working when you take it apart, and then it is working when you put it back together.
Yeah.
More often than not, it's working when you take it apart and not working when you put it back together. So you got to be careful. And my son certainly has that kind of proclivity. I was in his room, and there's the parts all over the place. What are you doing? Taking this apart. Why? I don't know. Perfect. Do that. That's awesome. So what we are talking about, right? What brings us together is this molecule, right? I'm holding up a model of a molecule. I think most of your audience watches, but if some are listening, just imagine a soccer ball where the lines on the soccer ball represent the bonds between the carbon atoms. So you have a spherical molecule of 60 carbon atoms. This molecule was discovered in 1985, and the scientists who discovered it won the Nobel Prize in 1996, a short 11 years from discovery to being awarded the Nobel Prize. My business partner, Robert, that Patty mentioned, and I started manufacturing this molecule in 1991, so even 5 years before they were awarded the Nobel Prize. The molecule won the Nobel Prize because the way I describe it, it performs as well or better than the current best material in almost every application. It makes better inks, better batteries, better tires, better photocells. And before we start talking about health benefits, the story gets a little worse. Because of one of the shapes on the exterior of this ESS60 molecule is reminiscent of benzene, they thought it would be toxic. They put it in a toxicity study. And instead of being toxic, the test subjects, in this case it was Wistar rats, lived 90% longer than the control group. So that's the single longest longevity experimental result on mammals in history. It's peer-reviewed published research, the kind of research you would hang your hat on. And I'm very proud to say that our lab provided the material and our lab is mentioned in that original study. And I'll kind of wrap this up. Like our most consistent testimonial is people take it in the morning, they report mental focus and energy during the day, and then better sleep that night. And the reality of if that's all it did, better sleep is good for your mental, physical, and emotional well-being. So probably should be something that's part of your kind of supplement regime.
Well, Chris, maybe some of those people that were reported at 260 years and older collecting Social Security are avid users of ESS60. I mean, it's the only thing that makes sense.
Well,
How can people not get what's going on when you've got, what is it, 77 million people, 119 and older?
Yeah, something crazy like that.
It's, I don't understand why we're still fighting at all, when we have the opportunity to all come together. My favorite question somebody just asked, because Bobby Kennedy Jr., and I'm a member of his Backstage Pass gang. Yes. We've sent him C60 EVO 3 times, I'm proud to say. And it started 2 years before now. So our company was blessed to be connected with him, and they were receptive to receive the products. And now, somebody asked yesterday, so if you could add to Bobby's list, what would you do? Because his list is so great of what are you going to do in the first month? He's going to stop the fluoride in the water, make the effort.
Mm-hmm.
Chemtrails, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Poison in the food. Good Lord. I mean, the things that we've had done to American food, water, air is very sad. And of course, getting rid of, what's his name, Billy, and glyphosate and Juvra, all these things. But then I added one more to the list, which is daily dose for everybody of C60 EVO organic olive oil, because I don't want to get sick anymore. And it's been proven in peer-reviewed reports, and they used our product, that it's 125 times more potent than vitamin C as an antioxidant. There was another lab test that wasn't peer-reviewed. Not sure the difference other than groups of people that reviewed it. Chris would know the difference, but 172 times. I'm impressed with 100 times more powerful than vitamin C. Also, though, it's a nano. What is it? It's not it's
a nano antioxidant.
A nano antioxidant, which is teeny enough to get into places that vitamin C can't. So when we reach for, all those vitamin C tabs, the chewables and this and that with all these things in them, instead you could take a spoonful of this and have 125 times the potency. I never get sick. And I'm around kids that are sick, and I'm like, bring them here. I don't get sick. And I don't. So I think it's this product, but I can't make claims. Just must be a coincidence that everybody I give it to doesn't get sick anymore. So there's many benefits that I notice daily, because I wake up, crack of dawn, and I put it in my morning coffee, the MCT coconut oil and 5 other ingredients. My morning coffee party is an event in Pattyland, but it always has the MCT coconut oil because it starts my day and I go all day long like this kind of energy. I feel like a locomotive, and I don't stop until 9 precisely, within minutes, and it's just timber, get out of the way. And which is great, because I kind of plan my life to be effortless now, and it helps to have this. And during the day, like right now, I think we should propose a toast. And everybody in the audience that has a bottle of Evo, if you want to join us, feel free, because I think I am so celebrating Bobby Kennedy Jr. replacing Rachel Levine or Richard Levine or Rocky Road Levine and taking America back to health. You know, this is what we're doing to make a difference in the world, and it's making a difference. I love the testimonials.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody. Please join
Cheers.
us. Hmm.
Chris, let me ask you this. If ESS60 is 125 times as effective as vitamin C, would it be possible to take enough vitamin C to achieve the same effect in a single dose? Like if you were to take 125 times as much vitamin C, would it even be able to achieve the same effects as a single dose of ESS60?
Well, there's a very famous scientist who pushed probably that exact envelope, and it's actually Dr. Linus Pauling. He's a two-time Nobel Prize winner. He won the Nobel Peace Prize when he wrote the letter to the president to, hey, stop work on the nuclear weapon. And he won another Nobel Prize for his scientific discoveries. And kind of towards the latter part of his career, he kind of admittedly tortured his graduate students by making them consume massive quantities of vitamin C. And then, vitamin C is water soluble, so you just check the urine to see how quickly it goes through your system. And one of the things we understand about vitamin C is you can consume a lot of it. Now, the difference is how the mechanism of action. In fact, it's understood that vitamin C can be what's called a hormetic response reducer, right? So a hormetic response is like when we lift weights, right? We break down our muscles, and then our hormetic response is to build those muscles stronger, right? Break a bone, build that bone stronger. It's known that antioxidants, at least antioxidants other than ESS60, can dampen that hormetic response. So you actually don't want to take lots of antioxidants when you're kind of doing those stresses on your body, and you want to have that beneficial bounce back hormetic response. So that's one key piece. You really don't want to use this in the wrong way. The ESS60 molecule is understood to be what's called a selective antioxidant. So it takes those oxidative products, so really the reactive oxygen species, and we can get into that, that are the most detrimental, and manages those. It doesn't worry about kind of a different layer of oxidants that don't do as much damage and actually operate as signaling molecules, the kind of things that would signal that hormetic response. So, it would not be good enough to take 172 times more vitamin C, because the way it works as an antioxidant is dramatically different.
That's interesting. I had no idea that it would be selective in any way, or that there was even like a distinction to be made there. So the ESS60 would be selective, whereas the vitamin C would just be, across the board reactive.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And that can be detrimental. It's well documented to be detrimental in certain instances.
That's interesting. Yeah, I had never heard that before. And I'm wondering about anybody out there who's trying to get gains right now. If they've been taking vitamin C during the wintertime, if they've noticed any particular drop off in their ability to gain lean muscle. Interesting. Patty, you were going to say?
Yeah, the thing I find to be the new hip conversation that I'm hearing on pretty much all the medical shows is people are finally coming around to realize the importance of mitochondrial health.
Mm-hmm.
And the mitochondria is through your whole body, but there's more by far in the brain and pineal gland than in any other cells in the body. And I just find that fascinating because it's almost like a magnet. I'm speaking not like a scientist, but like a Patty. It's like a magnet that it goes to where the body needs it. And we've had people with a busted toenail for 60 years, all of a sudden it flattened out. Like, what? We've had people that lost all their hair, then it's growing back. So there's something, I call it a miracle molecule. Chris is far more scientific, so he would correct me, which is correct. And it's such an amazing molecule, winning the Nobel Prize in 1996 because it was the best in almost every application. And it wasn't until the last 8 years, actually 12 years, that it received those accolades that Chris was talking about in the 2012 Paris Bhakti study, BAATI, the prolongation of life. It's on our website if people want to see it. But they used our products, and not only did the rats live 90% longer, but they died without tumors, which is almost more important to me.
Yeah.
Already 72, one. I'm pushing myself. Wow, 71, that sounds old. But what's amazing is my mom is 95. She's going to be 96 in a couple of months. And yesterday I got a phone call 2 days ago from her nurse who said, Patty, I got to tell you, we just got back from the doctor. Your mom had all of her blood tests done, and she's astounding them because her numbers are better than they were a year ago and better than they were 2 years ago.
Wow.
They're wondering how your mom at almost 96 is anti-aging. And the nurse damn well knows because I sent her a little 4-ounce bottle because I don't want her to leave. So my mom takes the Evo every day. She uses our facial serum on her face. You should see her skin at 90, almost 6. She looks every bit as good as people my age. So this is our advanced facial serum, and this is the oil, and it's called the Inside and Out set, but this is what my mom does, and she is astounding the doctors with her blood results. So to me, that was really a surprise call, caught me off guard, but I'm almost like not conceited about it, but I just kind of nod like, yeah, I know the product is that good. And I get nonstop calls, and I just nod and say, thank you. Yeah, I'm pretty proud. And Chris and Robert have been doing this forever, but to now be upgrading the cleaning process to ESS60 after 30 years to be safe for people and pets, this is what makes C60 EVO stand out in the industry because we're doing a product that's for people and pets rather than industrial grade, which Chris and Robert were doing, I guess, 25 years. And then they upgraded the ESS60. So they have specific products. They have industrial over there and people and pets over here featured by our company. And this is so strong. The olive oil, which also comes in capsules. And the capsules are for people that don't like to taste the olive oil or the whatever oil. If they don't like oil on their tongue or they're going to be traveling, they're going to want to take the capsules because you can do 100 of them in a baggie, but a 4-ounce bottle they might yank out of your carry-on. So the capsules are really wonderful. And people are taking between 2 and 6 a day. And for people that are hypersensitive, it's kind of a nice thing because you can just do 1 and see how you feel, and then 2 and see how you feel. We recommend 6 because that's a teaspoon. But I've gotten some late night emails. Last night I answered 2 of them at like 9 at night, which customers are probably like, how are they even open that late? They're not. I am. And so I wrote back to a couple different people. I don't even know if they're from another country, but they're asking about the capsules and the dosage. And it really is an independent study on your own body. So be intuitive and also take it before noon, in my opinion. You'll do a lot better getting all that energy and mental focus. But again, my mom at 96, she's reading novels that are that thick still, like astounding all of her friends that are getting strokes, heart attacks. It's like I should just go out there with a case of caps and turn everybody onto it, even the 100-year-olds, because it makes a huge difference.
It does. And there's so many things that they're discovering, like in terms of just like overall health, like how much inflammation affects those things. Like I've done a couple of interviews with a doctor, Dr. Richard Fleming, and he had popularized this thing called the Fleming method, which was in regards to heart disease. And medical literature would have you believe that heart disease is related to like the amount of plaque that's in your heart. But at the end of the day, it's really all coming from the amount of inflammation that you have in your system. And, this is obviously something that's going to specifically address any number of different types of inflammation. I understand that you can't say that specifically, but I mean, just looking at the literature, I'm a big reader of scientific papers, and it's even more important when they're coming from people who have no financial interest in the stake of the company. All too often, and this is one of the big things that I hope that they're going to address in this administration, is that scientific papers are often nowadays based around a pre-prescribed result that they're hoping to get, because they're the company that is creating this medication or this chemical or whatever it might be, they're the ones who are paying for it. And so they have a vested interest in making sure that everything happens in the way that they want it to. And, to know that there have been so many independent studies that have been done on this product in particular, I think that it bodes really, really well for the results that they've gotten. And I mean, I don't know how you can argue really with a 90% increase in lifespan and a 0% incidence in tumors, especially when they're genetically bred to die riddled with tumors. I mean, that is the best advertisement that I've ever heard, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, and just to talk to kind of clean up inflammation, right? One, let's throw out an FDA disclaimer. Right? The FDA has not evaluated our product. It is not intended to treat, diagnose, cure, or prevent any disease. And what we are allowed to say about inflammation is that we address inflammation, really kind of acute inflammation. So an example would be inflammation due to exercise, where we've all had maybe a tough workout or just walked farther than we normally do and woken up and felt that inflammation in our body. We can absolutely say that we address that type of inflammation. And I'm really excited. We had a Dr. Lane Young come to, I had a conversation with him at a conference, and we had been at another conference, and he had started giving our formula to his clients. And he said, and I actually recorded a video of this. He's like, Chris, I don't care if you're male, female, pre-surgery, post-surgery, diabetic, cancer, cardiovascular disease. Your formula reduces hsCRP, and I'll talk about what that is here in just a second, dramatically in 4 to 6 weeks. Now, hsCRP, really, CRP stands for C-reactive protein, and then HS stands for high sensitivity. So you're really looking at, it's one of the markers that they look at for cardiovascular disease. It also is one of the markers that they'll look at for cancer. So he gave the example of one of his clients sitting at about 9 hsCRP. They couldn't move the needle, started giving them our formula. 4 to 6 weeks later, boom, down to 0.9. So this is a dramatic decrease. I have since had some conversations with some oncologists, some cancer doctors who are like, when you have an hsCRP of 9, we assume you have cancer until we prove otherwise. That's how dramatic that 9 is, to drop it to 0.9. So we're in the process of putting together an ad hoc study. That's where you start to look at people's hsCRP before taking the product and then after they've taken the product.
That'll be excellent. Are you going to just be publishing it privately, or are you looking to have it published in research journals?
Well, so our goal is actually, so we're a company, we've got a budget, and these studies get really expensive. Mm-hmm. So the first thing is you just do this ad hoc. Hey, if we take this into an expensive placebo-controlled double-blind study, what is our likelihood of success, right? Because if it's low, you don't do that. You don't spend that money. Yeah. And so we're doing this ad hoc study. We're probably going to get about 20 people through that. And when that looks positive, because we expect it will, given all of our testimonials, given the testimonial from Dr. Young, then we'll have proven the concept, and then we'll take that directly into a placebo-controlled double-blind study.
Excellent. That's so incredible, because we've found out recently that there are many official scientific studies that have completely foregone the double-blind research method. They have they did what I described earlier. They just had something that they wanted to come up with, and then they essentially massaged the data to make sure that it resulted in that. And that's a shame, because the scientific method seems to have been abandoned in the modern age. And, you mentioned the FDA. The FDA also told everyone that it was perfectly safe to drink massive amounts of fluoride every single day, and that you would have, no problems with that. But all of the research and independent studies have proven that otherwise. And that's one of the reasons that that's going to be addressed in this administration. So, I am so excited about the future of health for all Americans. And this is obviously a major component of that for me.
It
Just
really
to
is
add, because you
breakthrough.
had mentioned cardiovascular
Yeah.
disease earlier, right? And
Yeah.
having a conversation with Dr. Fleming, um, the exact thing that you're talking about, the thing that shot us into the high carb, low fat diet was a very particular, I don't remember the researcher, but he had looked at the correlation between consuming fat and actually getting plaque buildup in your veins and arteries. And he decided to leave out countries where the data didn't conform to his premise.
Yep.
Right. And so this whole kind of disaster, we may remember fairly recently the food pyramid got turned upside down, right?
Yes.
Which is just crazy. Like
Yeah.
how do you get it absolutely wrong? It's because this guy published data and again erased the data of the countries where it didn't actually apply. So yeah, we've got to be careful when you're reading papers and you're digging into this research.
Absolutely. Patty, you were going to say?
Well, the combination of Chris and I, he brings the science, and I'm a walking testimonial who blindly found my way to the real lab who's making the good stuff. And I did it because I needed it. And I do want to say that in the last year, I am my favorite testimonial because I had 2 hip replacements and it was almost effortless, which doesn't make sense in a sentence, hip replacements and effortless. But I'm not even a year past now my second hip replacement. And I mean, nobody even knows. They're like, weren't you limping? Yeah, well, that's 2 hips ago, So last year. But the leading up to it was what was most remarkable, and this is a testament to ESS60, was that I went 2 years longer than anybody should have because I wasn't in a high level of pain. I was taking a tablespoon of olive oil or MCT coconut every single day with the ESS60, and my body's never had regular oil input in the morning. So to start my day with water, an ESS60 and a Mondo cup of coffee. I changed, I recalibrated my entire body. I feel like my joints, my muscles, my bones had an upgrade to where I had this flexibility, even though I was bone on bone from being hit with the directed energy weapon and falling at an airport right on my, it was terrible. And it just slowly, it got worse and worse and worse. But I went 7 years before I went down. I was like, oh God, I can't walk anymore. And so I was, and it was a Christmas a year ago. And the second surgery was in March a year ago. So my recovery, though, has been remarkable. And the lead up was when the surgeons looked at my x-rays, they didn't believe that I had gone 2 years walking on these bone on bone hips. And they said, it's not possible. And I said, here I am, and even though I needed, my trekking poles to get in here, that's what it got down to. Just to get around, I said, no, I was fine until literally 2 weeks ago. So now I'm like, what's my option? And they said, well, you can stay home the rest of your life or replace your hips. But they were looking at me really questioning, like, how did you do this so long? And I said, I've been taking this miracle oil, and I pull it out of my purse like I always do. And being doctors of the old century, they're like, yeah, 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 sure, that works. But why, how did you do it? And I'm like, so anyway, they actually thought that I must have been on drugs. And then they looked at me and they're like, no, she's too straight. She's not on drugs. And then they brought in other doctors to like talk to me. And I'm like, hey, why are there 3 doctors? I'm here to interview you. I'm shopping for a surgeon. And so they said, well, we've never seen anybody like you with x-rays that bad that's been walking for 2 years with x-rays that bad. And then they said, okay, she's not mentally crazy. Is she a drug addict? She's got to be. And I was like, yeah, no. And I pulled it out again. I'm like, seriously, oil in my body every day. And I never did it before. So for all you people out there in Zach's audience that have bone, muscle, issue, pain after workouts, take this in the morning and you're going to be probably, I can't say it's going to work for you, but if I had 2 hips replaced and I'm smiling 5 days later, literally my first surgery, I did a show 5 days later. And it's because I said, I don't want your drugs. God bless you. Thank you. 24 hours of pain relief. And then I was like, how could it not hurt? I don't know what it is in this bottle, but I have all my family on it. Everybody 16 and over is on C60 EVO. And I have always little samples in my purse. I go to restaurants, give it to the owners, and then I kind of watch every sale. And sure enough, 1 to 2 days, I see them order. So the thing about this is it's something you take on a spoon, so simple, and you actually notice it compared to all these other supplements that are really expensive. In my opinion, this is the easiest thing I've ever done. And my results have been incredible, as has my mother, who she's also astounding her doctors. So we're a couple of old ladies that are just like getting back, I'm on round two. I'm like on my comeback tour. And hard to say what this summer is going to bring, but I got a camper waiting
Right on.
to start playing again. I don't want to horseback ride or water ski. I got to be mindful. I feel totally normal like I could, but I don't want to take serious chances.
Don't
I don't
push
want to
the
go back.
envelope too much. Yeah. I remember when you told me that you had a hip replacement and the way that you were talking about it, I was like, geez, this must have been like a year ago because I've known people who had hip replacements and I mean, they did not recover. I mean, like even once they were, healed up, it was like it was obvious they had been opened up and they had, replacement parts put in. But the way that you were talking about it, I was like, wow, how did I miss this? And then I was like, oh my God, you mean like you just had a hip replacement? And I was like, Patty, you're incredible. I mean, you're a trooper. I couldn't even believe it.
I've surprised myself, and I know it's the product because I don't do other things.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I've got some really good tequila in the fridge, but it's been there a year. So it's like, my liquor grows hair on it before I drink it, so. But the Evo, I go through bottles. My facial serum, I just blew through another one. Because for me, I used to have all these expensive, nice products like my family does. And now we've just got this all natural, 21 natural ingredients. Absolutely fabulous. Smells great. You got to like rosemary. We have a body cream, smells like tangerine, makes you so happy when you put it on. And the reason for the rosemary is it takes your dreams, if you put it on at night, into a higher frequency. And again, this is aromatherapy master that I worked with, but I do believe in natural herbs and the essence of wonderful smells to help you heal or get yourself in a mood that would be healing. The dog formula has bacon essence. Well, how healing is that for men and dogs? Bacon.
Bacon healing.
And for kitties,
I don't
we
think we
have
have to. I don't think we have to worry about the FDA thinking that we're saying that bacon heals.
well, bacon does heal men. I've had men very jealous of the dog formula.
I love
And what I
bacon.
have to say is literally, it's just this, the olive oil, because it's our best seller and the strongest, with the bacon essence. And if men want the dog formula, go for it and just ignore the label. The cat formula has salmon essence. And boy, does that make kitties happy. Now, I find the dogs and cats both love both. I've heard, oh, we gave the wrong one and they loved it anyway. So those are our pet formulas. But when people have pets that are lethargic or hurting or limping or getting really old and, personality's wearing out, and then they give them a few drops of this in the morning, and we get letters of them crying like, we thought we were going to have to put our dog to sleep. Thank you. And that was a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
We've had two of those. Just gripping pet testimonials because people notice when their pets are better. And then it's like, well, dang, I'm going to have to get myself a bottle.
Yeah.
And then, whatever it takes for people to say, I'm as important as my dog or my cat.
Yeah.
It's a nice evolution. And we have pet lover sets where you can get one for you, one for your pet. So yeah, it's very I call it where you take it in advance of when you're going to do a workout. So when you take it in advance of a race, or when you feel like you're getting sick, double your dose. It's so easy because it's got such a potent antibacterial, antioxidant, and anti all these other things that aren't good in our body. For me, it's like a roto-rooter. When I started, it was like, whoa, because I was really toxic. I was dealing with detoxing from uranium. Stupid people put uranium in my garage, and I almost died 5 years ago. So I've been through the mill, but not today. I've been on this product, and I just feel like it's the best fight back of my life. And to get this at my age and be a co-owner of the company that makes it, with the only lab in the world making ESS60, our matching mugs, pretty much my motto is C60 EVO rocks.
Amen.
Yeah,
Amen.
cooking. I can't complain. And all Robert has to say, our silent partners, yeah, C60 EVO rocks. So I got to get Bobby to get a big bottle to Trump. And if Trump says yes, I got a 32-ounce bottle with his name on it waiting.
Beautiful.
And frankly, if Bobby writes and says, I could use some more, we'd send him a 32-ounce bottle the size of my head. But, the reason is we want everybody to just feel better. And when your brain is in a better place and when you sleep better at night, you're just going to come out a better person in the morning and start another day.
Certainly, certainly. Rest is very, very important. On the topic of brain, I frequently, every single day when I go live at 5 p.m., I will talk to the audience and report on everything that's happening, frequently for 2 to 2.5 hours at a time. And a lot of people have told me, I don't know how you do that. And, for me, it's just natural. It comes naturally. I don't really have to try to do it. And funny thing, somebody sent me an email and said, it's actually unnatural. You shouldn't be able to do that. And I think you might be possessed. And I was like, no, actually, I'm just taking C60 EVO. That's it.
That's awesome.
Oh, it's too funny.
The best.
All right, you guys. Well, we are almost at the end of our scheduled time. I want to make sure that everybody understands that we do have a special offer for the audience. If you haven't seen Chris and Patty on the show before, there is a special discount when you use code RedPill78. The link is in the description of the video. It's c60evo.com/RedPill78. But on top of that, Patty, you guys have a whole bunch of other specials and offers for people so that they can save money and use that code and save even more money.
Yeah, the easiest one is if you sign up for a monthly subscription, you'll get 20% off, and we send it to you every month. And if you don't love it, you can cancel effortlessly. Call, drop us a line. Our customer service are the nicest people, but most people don't cancel. We are at 53% of our whole annual income is resubscribes because people that start stay with it for a year, 2 years, 3 years. We've been at it now 5 years. And we have a lot of people that have been in it since the beginning because the products work and they're noticeably healthy for you. We do offer 15% on any of our gift sets, which is like the dog lover set or the inside and out set, a facial and an oil bottle. And that's 15% that we take off the price. And if you do that and you use Zach's code, you'll get 15% off the items and another 10% off at checkout with his code. And the biggest deal we do is dozen quantities. And it's the only time you can buy 2-ounce little bottles, but they're great to give away to people. And you can do one flavor or all 3 flavors, but you get 25% off a dozen quantity of any size bottle. And we have 4-ounce, 8-ounce, 16-ounce, and 32-ounce size bottles of the oil. And the capsules come in 180 capsules. Most people, that's a month's worth, but if you only want 2 a day, then you've got 3 months worth. So the facial serum is absolutely wonderful. And again, if the inside and out set, you'll save 15%, and then you use Zach's code for another 10% off at checkout. So give it a go. Look at the link below. And if you want to see the whole store, tap see more at the bottom and it'll open up to the whole store. But we want to sponsor Zach's channel. So make sure and use his link and code, and you'll get a great deal. We also have 2-part with peptide products for skin and for hair, but you got to go look at the website to see all that. And we just want to see people happy, and so does Bobby. Man, we are in it to win it. Let's make America healthy again, because 2025, it is great to be alive.
Amen. Amen. All right, you guys, thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate you. Appreciate you as always. The next time we see each other, I will be a married man. So enjoy the next 2 weeks, and I will see you all very, very soon.
You enjoy it even more.
I will. I'm sure I will.
All right.
All right. God bless you guys. We'll see ya.
Take care.